What is going on, Hive Warriors? So today we're going to talk about an important topic. I've seen some videos and information out there saying that the 16-8 is not the best for fat loss anymore. So is it not the best for fat loss anymore, or is it still the best? Well, let's go ahead and dive into it. First thing that I want to set up as a premise for this is I have not seen any other videos involving if 16-8 is not the best for fat loss anymore, or if it is the best, or what have you, or 16-8 in 2023. I have not watched any other videos regarding that topic. I've not watched videos on that. What I have done though is read studies on intermittent fasting as a whole all the time, non-stop, right? And one thing that we must understand when it comes to the science of anything, the science of weight loss, the science of physical activity, the science of hypertrophy, which means building and growing muscle, you have to look at the totality of the results of the synthesized version of all of the data that we currently have. For example, if there are 20 studies, just a little small example, there's 20 studies that state jumping jacks, and I'm making this up right now, jumping jacks are the best exercise, are the best jumping exercise that you can do, right? And then there's one study that comes out and says, no, burpees is the best exercise that you can do based off of this study. Now, this one study that comes out is the newest study. That's fine. That does not mean that this study now trumps all of these other 20 studies. And on the contrary, this means that we need more data to continue. And if we see data pushing in this direction, we can be more cautious. And if we see way more studies of saying that the burpees are better than jumping jacks, then we can start moving into a direction where we're having a conversation where burpees is better than jumping jacks. But if there's 20 studies saying that jumping jacks is better and one study saying that burpees is better, it doesn't necessarily mean that now that burpees is the newest study, that the other 20 studies don't matter. Each of those 20 studies probably has a different or slightly different methodology and design, right? One might have people doing jumping jacks without anyone else as a control study to compare to. For example, they would have a control study would be a group of people doing burpees, and they'll compare the burpees people doing versus the people doing jumping jacks. And one might just have jumping jacks, look at the results and say, these are really good results for just doing jumping jacks, but wasn't compared to burpees. Another one might be compared to burpees. Another one might be compared to burpees, but also equating for protein. Another one might be compared to burpees, but also controlling for calories. Another one might be, so there's so many different variations of trying to get the same results. Now, if something is randomized controlled, which means it has another group comparing it to the intervention group, which is the people doing the jumping jacks, that's stronger. That's stronger than just somebody doing jumping jacks or a group of people doing jumping jacks, because at least we could compare it to something else and it isn't just isolated, right? If the sample size is a bit larger, that's better. If the time limit is longer, that's better because it shows us more time. 2 weeks is not better than 6 months of doing this study with these participants. So there's so many different variations, right? And this new study just may have had them do jumping jacks and burpees, but didn't actually control for how much they eat or what they ate. It could have let them eat ad libitum, which means they could eat whatever they want. Also didn't control for other physical activity. So we don't know all of the moving pieces just because, well, we do if we look at the methodology, but not if we just look at the headline. So I implore you to be very cautious when you're looking at a study saying new study, because a news outlet would jump on anything that's polarizing, right? Intermittent fasting was very popular. So if a new study says intermittent fasting is not effective, they're going to jump on that. And then that's going to be the headline. Intermittent fasting isn't effective. And then if you don't actually look at the methodology, don't understand that there's so many other studies with better methodologies that have come out before this one that have shown that intermittent fasting is indeed effective, you're going to fall into the newest thing must be the best thing, right? Because it's new, when in reality they could have a way worse methodology than the previous study. And I say all that to bring it back full circle to say no, it is not the case that intermittent fasting, the 16-8, is not the best, because it is still the best. Because even if there is a study that comes out saying this one was more effective than 16-8, there have been many studies in that vein comparing 16-8 to other intermittent fasting protocols, and the 16-8 tends to be the most effective, meaning the most effective at retaining participants to continue the protocol, the most effective at maintaining as much muscle mass as possible, the most effective at assisting with body fat loss, the most effective at assisting with resistance training and making resistance training and physical activity more comfortable. It is still the most effective one overall. And if you see one or two new studies saying that that isn't the case, that does not change the narrative, because it is only one or two studies. We have a lot of studies that say otherwise. So what would have to happen is we would have to have multiple different studies with multiple different methodologies and variations to start to move the needle in a different direction. So that is the reason why, just because one study comes out saying calories don't matter, it doesn't mean that calories don't matter, because there's too many studies that show that calories do matter. So hopefully that puts you guys in a better mindset to understand how to read studies and understand that just because a new study comes out in isolation does not change the narrative for human biology. Unfortunately, for most people, I know some people want it to change off of one study, but it doesn't. All that happens, and why people believe this to be the case, is because, you know, people just like they love to clickbait, even with headlines, right? Even like newspapers and stuff. They love the online newspapers. They love headlines that are clickbaity. If they know that there's a massive group of people that like something, saying something isn't good will trigger some sort of a reaction and attention from a mass group of people that believe it to be good. And that's the reason why these things happen. So hopefully this video was helpful for you. I know I didn't dive into any studies, but I gave you an answer, and I've given you an understanding of why, like, even if another person comes out and says something different in this, that because of a study that just came out, that it is not going to be powerful enough to change the narrative. It might have a good methodology, it might have a good setup, but it's still just one study. All right, guys, until the next one, hit that like, hit that subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace out, guys.